I try to consume some green, something green. Preferably live and fresh. I'll be making a smoothie, you'll see that. But here's the product. Okay, I'm not even going to talk about it. You can check it out yourselves. I have some people that have allergy issues. I do like to take a little bit of quercetin. The bromelain is from pineapple. It helps digestive enzymes. But I do take some of that. Some other supplements that I wanted to highlight. For cholesterol, a lot of people have cholesterol issues, and maybe the doctors want to put them on some sort of a statin, like Lipitor or something. I like to take this one. It's Cholestine, and it works. My last blood reading, my cholesterol was 188. So when I've gone off of this, cholesterol goes up, go back on it, it goes down. It's citronine and gluten-free. And I know in Europe it's pretty standard practice whenever they prescribe any type of a statin, they're required to also use some ubiquinol, and that's what this one is. This is the one I take. It's also good for the heart. Let's see. I'd like to do the 81 milligram of aspirin. I just do it Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And let's see. Along the lines of cholesterol, most recent one. This product here, called Pure Encapsulations, well that's the brand, it's called Cholespure. This particular one, I was actually in my doctor's office, and he was mentioning an internal medicine website, and actually I went on there and there was a lady cardiologist who recommended this one to help for cholesterol. It has the plant sterols in it. Let's see. Something else that I wanted to mention along the health lines. Let's see here. Something that's really important is to drink a water that's high in pH. I drink this Essentia. Something else I wanted to mention too is any products that I'll be talking about, sharing, I have no financial interest. This is all just about sharing. And again, you do your own due diligence and see what you like, what you don't like. But I take the Essentia water. I use this one almost every day on the skin. It's really great. It's an aloe product. And then also Indian product, Vico. Any sort of little cuts, scrapes, whatever, blemishes, whatever it might be. This is great stuff for your skin. When my mom was last in the hospital, it was in her bag. This is an old product. This is probably about 70 years old. Calmoseptine. It's just great for a variety of things on your skin. Let's see, I wanted to mention back in, I think it was around 2005, right in that time period, I'd actually ended up in emergency over at St. Joe in Orange, trying to pass a kidney stone. So as a result of some of that, I began to do some research. And one of the things that I discovered in the research is this product here. It's called Stonebreaker, but it contains, I should have the Chanca Piedra in there. Yeah, the Chanca Piedra. Chancapiedra. It's an herb, quite commonly grown. It's like a weed that grows wild in places like Peru. But anyway, I started using this, and also along those lines, again, kind of around after that horrible day in the emergency, I was talking to a guy, and he said, you know what, you're probably too acidic. That's probably how you get those stones. The doctors won't tell you. You ask them, hey, why do you get gallstones or kidney stones or whatever, and they don't really have a whole lot to say, but I believe it is from being too acidic. So that took me into some other areas, and I ran across a physician, actually from Mexico, and he pointed me to this particular book here, The Cure for All Diseases by Hulda Clark. And inside here, there's actually a, shall we say, a recipe to do liver cleanse. My particular book, it's on page 555. These are pictures of gallstones. But back around that 2005 time frame, by both my mother and I, we did the liver cleanse, and you know, the only ingredients involved are just Epsom salts, olive oil, and then fresh pink grapefruit. And anyway, you start taking that. Here's the time frame. If I don't know if you can zero in on that, but suggest stopping to eat at 2 p.m. But we actually stopped at 3. And then those notes are the times that we took the Epsom salt drink. But when we did it at that time, yeah, we both had a lot of stones that we eliminated. And what's interesting is that my own internist, my own personal physician, he said, no, that's not going to work. You're not going to be able to pass any kind of stones in that manner. But as a matter of fact, one of them was a chunk, like calcified. And I actually got a prescription from my doctor, had it analyzed at Quest Diagnostic. And they said it was a kidney stone. I actually think it was a gallstone, but they came back on the report and said it was a kidney stone. So, you know, there, if I was going to pause, you know, doctors, they're practicing medicine, they're practicing on us, they're going to send the bill to your insurance company and or you. So, but they're practicing, and they make mistakes as well, and not everything they say is 100%. We do have to trust them. They're absolutely necessary. We need people that take a more, shall we say, scientific approach, not just anecdotal kinds of things, which maybe I would present, like even talking about this in my experiences, that's anecdotal. So, but at any rate, I also wanted to mention a couple of books. 2 books, I think if you read these, I don't think that you would need to, you know, really read any other health books. That's my opinion. This first one actually is called the China Study. And I read this years ago. If I remember correctly, that's Campbell. What's interesting is Dr. Campbell, he actually was born and raised on a dairy farm. One of the things I think that was kind of most shocking to me about reading that book is he goes on into a lot of research, you know, 20, 25 years of research about why cow's milk is actually so bad for you. There's actually a particular protein that's in about 80% of cow's milk that is a problem. They collaborated with China. They did research like for 25 years, and he points out all the reasons in there. Likewise, he gets very much into vegetables and greens, and really between these 2 books, you get a sense for, shall we say, a hierarchy of food. If you were to put food in a categorical hierarchy, dark leafy greens would be the absolute best food that we can eat, followed by, you know, a lot of fruits are fine, nuts, some of those types of things, whether they be almonds and so forth, those are also alkaline. One of the things too on this China Study, I actually gave this book to some physicians that used to be my mother's physicians. 2 doctors stand out of my mind, and they're still practicing medicine in the Orange County area. One is Dr. Kelly Tucker. That he was my mother's cardiologist. What's pleasantly surprised me was Dr. Tucker. He said he actually used the same words I did, and I think that's why I was so surprised. But he said, "Wow." When I talked to him after he read the book, he said, "Very compelling." And Dr. Kelly Tucker, he actually, with this book, he actually went back into the back of the book where all of the references are for the research, and he said he dug deeper. He actually went into the research and researched that. So he actually flipped over to pretty much vegetarian, and then also my dermatologist, who was also my mother's dermatologist, Dr. Gregory Bartlow, also practices in Santa Ana. He was leaning towards being a vegetarian anyway, and but after he read this book, he told me that he flipped over to just being a vegetarian. It is very, very compelling. I say it's based on 25 years, approximately that, in research. They looked at, they studied people in China like living in the rural areas, and then they compared the diseases that those people have compared to Western society and all the affluence that we have, and the whole affluent diet thing. And the people in the rural areas, they have a disease list about like this, and folks like us have a list about like this. And it's because of diet. One of the things he talks about in here is that even though, he talked about the whole genetics thing, and even though some people, yeah, they may have some sort of a genetic predisposition for a particular disease, he points out that it's, hey, in his belief, it's diet that triggers it. Let's see, the other book I wanted to mention by Jung is The pH Miracle. And that's another thing which is really important. That's one of the reasons why I put turmeric and ginger. I try to consume some things that are alkaline, the way they're going to be processed in my body, in our bodies. They have an alkaline result. Like for him, for example, for breakfast, he would eat avocados and tomatoes and sprinkle it with either sea salt or Himalayan salt. So very, very alkaline. He suggests in the book, and there's a lot of testimonials, his book is really geared towards people that have really serious illnesses, acute issues. He talks about getting your pH to ideally at least over 8. He makes a statement in the book that if you get that he says cancer cells can only live in an acidic environment. So if you get your pH 8.0 or higher, the cancer cells simply cannot live. So that's a rather profound statement. There was one time on a doctor visit, another doctor who is still practicing medicine, a Dr. Mahmoud in Orange. He's affiliated with St. Joseph's. I was on an appointment there with my mother. My mother had some really bad cancer in her leg at one time in her life, and I actually ran it by Dr. Mahmoud. I said, you know, Mahmoud, what do you say about this statement that he makes? You know, if you get your alkaline level in your body, which by the way you can test with these pH strips, you can test your urine. I like the one from Vaxa. Vaxa.com. I get these on Amazon. But you can find out where you're at and kind of go from there, then try to make some adjustments with your diet. You can also take certain supplements like Alkaline Balance will boost you up. The single strongest thing that you can consume probably is baking soda. Most people recommend Bob's Red Mill aluminum-free baking soda. That is super strong. It'll just boost you up. But at any rate, going back to Dr. Mahmoud, what really surprised me, I actually fully expected him to kind of challenge that, to say, I was mentioning Dr. Mahmoud in his response to the pH Miracle, and when I pointed out that, you know, the author is saying that, hey, if you have your pH at 8.0 or higher, cancer cells simply cannot live. I expected Dr. Mahmoud to respond with something like, well, you know, hey, thank you, you know, Mr. Novice, for sharing that information, but, you know, dealing with cancer is a lot more complicated than just simply, you know, boosting your alkalinity. To my surprise, he did not dispute, nor did he patronize me in any way. He actually had his response was actually a question. He said, yes, but how do you get your pH that high and keep it that high? So I actually went back home and I got some stuff, and I pointed out things like, you know, the AlkaBalance, you can get these pH protector drops, you can drop these in water, you know, coffee and so forth. I think I also mentioned to him about the essential water. obviously consuming greens. There's things that you can do. It's very, very difficult because most of the things that we consume are frankly acidic. So it's a real challenge, particularly if you have some sort of disease. I think if I had some sort of disease, I would probably just eat strictly. I would probably grind up dark leafy greens and do all these things, baking soda and whatnot, and I would be testing myself and making sure that my alkalinity was super high. So that's it on that. I think, let's see, is there anything else over here? Oh, I did want to mention, let's see. Yeah, I think just these here. I'll actually start with this one. This is one that you might want to do some research on. Vitamin K2. It can be important in getting calcium out of tissue areas that were, shall we say, shouldn't be. Anyway, do your own due diligence. I actually had a client that recommended this one to me, oil of oregano. But you want to make sure that it has the carvacrol in there, C-A-R-V-A-C-R-O-L. There are some like people that will sell this stuff or sites that will sell it, and it's just oil. It's not really, it doesn't really have the active ingredient in there. And this is good for, supposedly it helps to kill fungus, in our systems and whatnot. Just good general well-being. Again, do your own research. I take this one every day. Helps to detoxify the liver. It has milk thistle in it, which is, pretty strong stuff. Good stuff to help detox your liver. And the last one I might mention is this. This is called Plus, and it actually contains Mexican yam, which is the same, shall we say, compound that they use to make synthetic estrogen and so forth. So this is endocrine support. It actually will, this pill will help your body to make whatever hormones it deems necessary. I would point out, I've read articles that they say, well, no, that's not going to work. I have information that would say that, yeah, it does. And on an anecdotal basis, again, I would point out, my sister, she was postmenopausal, and unfortunately, she was taking some synthetic estrogen at the time. She did start to take the Plus, and she actually started spotting, and so she kind of panicked, freaked out, whatever, and discontinued use of the product. Unfortunately, years later, she started out with breast cancer, and then subsequently in the course of her treatment, they told her that it was because of too much estrogen in her system. So I wish that she would have worked more closely with a doctor, maybe said, hey, I want to take this. In other words, like responding in a way that, oh, wait a second, it must be actually doing what my brother said that it's doing. It's helping my body make hormones. I'm taking this synthetic stuff, oh, wait a second, all of a sudden now I have too much. Well, maybe working with a doctor, they titrate back the synthetic and, start doing blood work and this kind of thing. But unfortunately, it didn't go that way for her. But again, on an anecdotal basis, when I used to go to meetings on this one, because it was offered in a multi-level marketing type of a venue, which I disassociated with that. I still take the product, but I never really did much in terms of trying to sell it or anything to other people. It used to be under the brand Emprise, E-M-P-R-I-S-E. Then later, Manitech is actually now a publicly traded company in the stock market. But they have a lot of good products. Like I say, I have no financial affiliation with them whatsoever, but I do take the Plus product. And then for men, I take the Saw Palmetto. It's really good for the prostate, and this I get from Vitacost. A lot of these different health products, I found Amazon, their prices can be a little high on some health stuff. So check out Vitacost. Again, I have no affiliation with them. eBay also, I've gotten the Plus I've gotten before on eBay on some good deals. So I think the only other thing I wanted to share, we'll do a smoothie later, but I wanted to share with you what's called a PEMF device, but we're gonna have to go into the other room.